From a supply chain perspective, Hyphen is one of the largest multi-tenant mobile solutions that serves home builders, manufacturers, distributors, suppliers, two guys in a pickup truck within the home building industry. And the thing that we think is unique is we include everyone in the industry. And when we look at what that industry looks like, we think that it's choreographing chaos. And so when we look at everything that happens, somewhere between 70 and 85% of the activities that occur on a job site are outsourced, which means that as a home builder, anything that changes in the sales office ultimately has to make it all the way through to the supply chain in order for the right product to be installed at the right time, that you have a happy customer at the end of the day. When we look at the way that we digitize software within the home building experience, we like to think of, by removing some of these processes, we are able to create a lot of efficiencies. And the efficiencies that we create through the elimination of manual paper is almost about $2,000 a home. More importantly, though, is that it gets rid of, over our entire system, 86 million plus emails, faxes, and things like that that can be lost, can be destroyed, can show up in your junk mailbox, all the things that are not work-related. The other thing that we do is we tend to get rid of custom vendor portals, and we'll tell you why vendor portals are a bad idea for your suppliers that you work with. When we look at builder-focused automation, a lot of times that means throwing up a vendor portal, and that sounds like a good idea. But if a bunch of builders do this, then it starts to create problems for the suppliers that you work with. So a lot of people start with orders and putting their POs out there, and that was fairly easy. And so they said, well, that got rid of some of my issues, so let me try some more. And then they put another portal out there for schedules and another portal for sharing documents, like with Buzzsaw. And then they say, well, let's give them payment data, and that gets easier. And warranty data shows up next. And you start looking at it, one vendor working with a builder might have to go 4, 5, 6 different portals. And while that doesn't sound necessarily untenable, even though it's not great, it does get harder as multiple builders adopt that same strategy. And then it becomes really hard to work with all these builders and all the different technologies that they deploy. And the problem with vendor portals that we see out in the world is that you can't create economies of scale. Using a vendor portal that only works for a builder actually costs an increase in your actual services that you're getting rendered. Some of the antecedents to supply chain integration and supply chain improvement are significant volume and a long-term commitment. And when we look at our industry, where the largest 20 or largest 200 builders in the United States do 30 to 40% of the volume, that sounds good, except when you compare it to the automobile industry, the top 5 U.S. automobile manufacturers do 70% of the entire demand with respect to the U.S. market. So home building tends to be more fragmented, meaning that if we have a bunch of disparate technologies, it makes it really hard for your suppliers to work with you. We take a little bit of a different approach, and we think that there is a better way. And what would that better way be? Well, in our vernacular, it would be having everyone on the same system. So what we have is kind of a picture here, and if you were that lone person there in the forest and your job was to gather leaves, you could do it because there's a lot of leaves around, but it would be really hard to get them on. You'd have to go to a lot of different places, and that kind of looks like a builder-led vendor portal strategy. When builders adopt SupplyPro, we take all the leaves and we connect them onto a set of branches, and we have one tree trunk. And by connecting to that tree trunk one time as a supplier, you can work with all the builders that are on my system. So one login gets you the data to all 200 plus builders that are on my system. Taking that forward, we also include every one of the participants in the system because we think it's important for everyone to get data out of the system. And while this is an improvement right here, we take these lines that separate all these different constituencies in the home builder supply chain, and we make it look like this by connecting them with deep integration. So when I look at why are people willing to integrate with Hyphen, from a supplier perspective, my largest supplier is getting 5, 6, 700,000 orders a year from me. And they are with me, some of them since 1998, 1999, so they get a very long-term commitment. So they might work with 5 or 8 builders in that whole time frame, but they use one technology for every one of those orders. So we really try and be inclusive of everyone in the chain. To that end, we've got 11,000 plus suppliers, manufacturers, and trades that are on the system. You see kind of a who's who here of people that have adopted some of the different features. They literally exist all over the U.S., 11,000 companies, almost 50,000 individual locations now for people that sign into our system. And we believe that moving to the Hyphen network allows you to have a single source of truth, not just for you internally, but also externally to all the companies that aren't a part of you, all your trades, your plumbers, electricians, your roofers, so that as soon as you update data in the sales office or the back office, that data moves instantaneously, automatically to every one of your trades. And so we provide a single procurement and collaboration platform for you and all of your trades. We think that home builders agree that this is a good way to do things. And why do we believe that? Because for production builders and for the market, about 1 out of every 3 homes in the U.S. actually flows through our systems today. When we take that and take a little bit closer look at our market penetration, our share of the top 200 builders is over 50% with respect to the entire production. When we look at the 2 recent acquisitions that we did of the Faro IBS Wind clients and the Bricks clients, our share of the top 200 builder volume goes up to 70%. So really big market penetration out in the space. Each of the builders are getting additional value propositions by adopting some of our additional products. When we look at the product platform that we cover, inclusive of using the Sage tools, there are a number of different things that home builders do. And again, the big thing here isn't just about what you as a home builder can do, but the fact that by doing it this way, you give each of your suppliers one login to be able to get any of this type of job information that he might need in order to do it well. Additionally, you're feeding him all the payment data so that he stops calling your superintendents in the field or your back office personnel trying to figure out what he's supposed to do when he's getting paid and things along that line. So how do we do all this thing? Everything that we do really starts with a deep integration to the builder ERP and then pushes itself through as POs flow through the system and go into BuildPro, and then as you encounter lead time starting tasks that go to SupplyPro. And as we mentioned, many of our suppliers, because they get so much data from us, have chosen to integrate their ERP directly into SupplyPro. Included modules that we have a number of different functions, from multifamily to being able to track and run extra purchase orders electronically without having to send papers, being able to find trades. We have 11,000 plus trades on our system. So a number of included modules, but then because we run a user group that actually helps us drive our product direction, we've actually created a number of new products that are now available for purchase and that extend the collaboration between you and your suppliers. Lien waivers, bidding, warranty, homeowner portals, rebate tracking, stormwater management, just a number of tools. And again, the idea here is we don't want your suppliers to have to go to different places to get information associated with work they're doing for you. And by the user base expanding our feature function, we're able to deliver that one login gets you all of the data that you need as a supplier. So in addition to that, we're actually driving supply chain activity too. So for suppliers who say, Felix, you don't have builder X or builder Y on the system, we show them how we have additional technology that'll take builder purchase orders from either faxes or emails or other builder portals and take that data and push it into SupplyPro, also that your suppliers can have an economy of scale. Even as we do that, the other thing that we do is we transform a lot of the data. So if you're ordering packages or things along that line, appliance package 1, we convert that generic nomenclature data or that builder data into supplier recognizable data. So if you're ordering 2x4s, we change it into 84 Lumber's number or into Builder's First Source number. We have the ability to do that automatically for orders as they flow through the system, which really saves your suppliers time and energy of looking up what those items mean to them. Additionally, we talked about integration to the back office for suppliers' order entry systems. That happens through SupplyPro Connect. We also provide data visualization so that people can see trend analysis, whether that's warranty issues, inspection issues, things that they can do to do a better job for you. Field management services, think of that as the BuildPro that we're going to go to for suppliers on steroids in a completely mobile unit. And then the last thing is InstallPro. This is really a device and software program that's used to track product installation at the actual job site with full geotagging, pictures, manufacturer descriptions, everything you might want to know about an individual product. Again, we talked a little bit about package mapping. If you said plumbing package 1, we could convert plumbing package 1 into all of its individual components automatically for you and for your supply base. Now, why is it that we're talking about suppliers so much? Why is it that I'm spending so much time worrying about what those guys do? Well, unless you've been in a vacuum, you know that there's a big trade shortage associated with our industry right now. You know, when we look at the downturn, the industry lost 40% of its labor force between 2006 and 2011. And of those guys that were lost, 6 out of 10 workers left the industry entirely. So we think that that's a big issue, and keeping your trades is a big, important part of what we do. And so we want all of our builders that exist on our network to really be a builder of choice. That means when I'm, as a supplier, have 2 jobs that I have to do today for 2 different builders, I want them to pick a builder that works more closely with them. And we provide the systems and the know-how and the data transformation to allow you as a builder to be that builder of choice. So we talked a little bit about the trades being really important. If we look at the historical average, the U.S. has put out about 1,066,000 homes since they started counting. And okay, that sounds great, but look at where we are today. When we look at what was pushed out last year, we were somewhere just short of 800,000 homes. So if you stretch that blue line across the history of where we've gone in this industry, we would technically still be in a housing recession when you look at any of the other market downturns for home building. The other thing is we're in growth mode as an industry as well. So we're continuing to try and grow to our long-term average at the same time of where we've lost 40% of our trades. So how do you continue to grow even though we don't have the trade base to service the 1 million homes? Well, you have to become more efficient. You have to become more effective. You have to do more with less. And you have to start using the power of the network. So NAHB had a great article they put out, and they said, here are 3 things you can do to keep your trades. Pay them on time every time. Hyphen annotates that to say, and when you pay them on time, pay them correctly. Understanding your trade's work capacity. That'll go to resolve disputes between you and your trades all day long because it stops you from having unrealistic expectations about what they can do for you. And above all, focus on job site readiness. People don't like showing up to a job site that's not ready for them because it causes them extra cost and reduces the amount of profit they can make. What Hyphen is trying to do, we're trying to bridge the plan of what actually happened in the field with what we thought was going to happen. And we provide a number of tools associated that use the power of the network to drive that information automatically instead of forcing an additional capture of data to drive the reporting we need to manage the business. This stuff that Chris develops for us actually shows up in many different ways in many different product platforms, whether you want iOS, Windows 10, Surface Tabs, iPhones, iPads. We have a number of different ways for you to adopt the technology. And Chris will tell you that his big hope is that data is entered once, shared with everyone who needs it in the form that's most conducive for their consumption of the individual data. So that's why he puts out so many things. Why do we do this? Because we think there are thousands of dollars in value available for you as a home builder if you will focus on just a few simple items. And those are the things that Chris uses and the technology that he's going to show you that shows you how you can pay your vendors on time every time, how you can pay them correctly, how we give them tools to give you notification of payments, payment requests and or payment inconsistencies. Going to the second thing, we talked about knowing the availability and the capacity of your individual suppliers. So we have some screens set up that automatically show you where the holes are in your construction cycle and then say, hey, look, here's some availability. As these colors start to get darker or red, then you can start going, ooh, I've got this particular supplier scheduled for way too many tasks and he's not going to be able to perform them. Let's have an open conversation about rescheduling some of the activities so that we can get these lines all to be green and we can make sure that we've got realistic expectations about the performance. Now, looking at the builder view of a supplier's data is one thing. Looking at the supplier view is completely different because a supplier may be offering you 2 to 3 field crews to work on stuff. For other builders, he might be offering 2 or 3, so he could have a much different view of what his capacity is compared to what you think the capacity is. And we provide that data really easy, one screenshot for the suppliers to be able to see that. And again, this goes back to how do you keep your trades understand what they're capable of doing for you, understand how big they can grow and what they need from you, and then treat them really, really well. What are the other tools that talk a little bit about AI and using the power of the network? It's one thing for you to schedule a guy to come out to a job site on a particular day. It's another thing for the network to automatically look at activities and give you a visual indicator like here. So if I'm the countertop guy, the red indicator on a particular task is telling me that the cabinet guy has not started his activity. So if I'm putting in cabinets, countertops and there's no cabinets, that job site is probably not ready for me. A yellow indicator would tell me that the cabinet guy has started his work, but has not necessarily completed it. And a green indicator on the task itself would tell me not only is the cabinet guy done with his work, he's already requested payment, and the builder has approved that particular activity. So the actual availability and job site readiness is looking really good from a network perspective. So we're just using all the data that's out there to give additional indicators to your suppliers as to the job site readiness, which goes back to how is the third way to keep your trades. Focus on job site readiness. You know, don't have them show up to a job site only to have to come back home and go, hey guys, I guess we're watching I Love Lucy tonight. It just doesn't go well. It doesn't make you the builder of choice.